What's up, guys? Sean Kelly here. Welcome to the first episode of Business All Stars. I'm here with a good friend, Ryan White. Ryan is a seven-figure digital entrepreneur, influencer, investor, PR contributor, and speaker. He founded a globally recognized company called Social Revelation. And today I'm here to talk with him about how he grew it and how you guys can get involved with him. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
I appreciate you for having me, Sean. I look forward to dropping some value to your audience.
Yeah, let's drop some bombs today, baby. All right.
For sure.
So let's get started. How did you get started? Like, what was your childhood like? And walk me through like how your parents raised you and all that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from a small town, about 3,300 people. So South Georgia, a town called Lakeland, Georgia, to be exact. And both my parents, man, were in education. Actually, they're both actually still teaching for the state of Georgia, entering like their 30th year. So, again, I was kind of raised middle class. People from small town Georgia, obviously with a small town mindset, so to speak. We were always kind of considered rich and wealthy, which is kind of funny now looking back, realizing that, that my parents made around $50,000 a year, which again is middle class, and I understand like that's a good income for most people in America, right? But in terms of a 10-year-old boy with massive dreams and aspirations to one day be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, it just wasn't where I pictured myself landing, right? For the majority of my life. And so I was a athlete growing up. We were very much a baseball background family. My dad was actually my high school baseball coach. And so he coached me from the time that I was able to walk and hold a bat all the way through T-ball up until obviously recreation ball, middle school, and then high school. And so, just kind of being in that environment, obviously it was super competitive. He was always, stayed on me more so than any of the other kids on the team, just wanting me to be the best version of myself, not only the best player on the team, but the best player in the county and surrounding counties and in the state. And, just getting me to think, hey, you got to think outside of just this little small town that you're living in, because there's a big world out there. And so I think it was that, that him staying on top of me, wanting me to be better and always pushing me to kind of be great. And so I think that instilled a solid work ethic in me very early on. And obviously that's kind of carried over now once my baseball career has ended into this entrepreneurship field and now every day and with what I'm doing with Social Revelation.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. So pretty much your dad taught you the work ethic. And then what age around would you say did you know you wanted to be your own boss and an entrepreneur?
I know it's pretty crazy, man, but 10 years old, I can literally remember as early as 10 years old that I would just, that I would be a CEO. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to run my own company. I basically, growing up, man, you notice certain things at an early age. I always kind of saw, as travel baseball was getting big in my area, 2003, I was 13 years old. It was right at the forefront of travel baseball getting big, and travel baseball is quite expensive. And so I always remember, my parents wanting me to always go and do and never go without. And so we lived on credit cards a lot of the times. If we went out on a trip, and for a week long or something like that, I just remember, man, my parents always having to put it on the credit card, and then, near the end of the month, just waiting on the first of the month to get there. And so you notice things like that and hear conversations as you're growing up naturally. And I just always remember I didn't want that, and so it was at that moment where I think entrepreneurship and just this feeling of being a CEO started to manifest.
Yeah, for sure. I have a similar story. I ever since I was young, I just knew I had it in me. And I think most people are born with it that are entrepreneurs, in my opinion.
For sure. It's definitely a personality trait that you can pick up on when you talk to people. You're like, yeah, I guarantee that guy would do very well in entrepreneurship if he's not already in it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you were growing up with baseball and stuff, and obviously you didn't have much money as a kid. So how exactly did you get started with your company?
Yeah, so in 2013, when my collegiate career, stopped, I actually worked at Tennessee State Bank for about a 6-month stint, which was kind of where I was trying to find my way in the world, if you will. I'd graduated with an accounting degree, and I didn't really enjoy the internships in the accounting field that I did. So I was like, I know I'm kind of in a rough spot now because I have these student loans and I have this accounting degree, but I really have no aspirations to go be an accountant.
Yeah.
So, 6 months I worked at a bank, and then luckily I moved back from Tennessee, which is where I went to school, back to the state of Georgia, and I got an opportunity to get back into baseball as a private baseball instructor in 2013, and I did that from 2017. So naturally, as I'm working for Five Star National in Warner Robins, Georgia, as a coach, private instructor, they also put me over like the website and the social media marketing because naturally I was the youngest in the office. Everyone else was 40, 50 years old. So they kind of obviously put that role onto me to kind of bring this whole millennial mindset, into play within their organization. And so I started, just really trial and arrowing my way to some success. I was able to get pretty good traction for them. And then, I just started kind of playing with this idea. If I can do it for them, why wouldn't I be able to, duplicate those results for myself? And so as I started playing with that idea, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start spending a little bit more time on my personal brand kind of over here on the side. And, because all the thoughts of the passive income, right, and trading, linear income for more of a recurring income, I kind of started playing with this idea because, at the time I met my girlfriend, and I knew things were going to get serious very early on. She knew the same thing. And, so I started immediately kind of playing with, the idea of, hey, listen, man, if this turns into what I think it can, potential wise, then, I'm working right now pretty much 40, 50 hours a week, seeing, training 40, 50 kids coming in each week from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night. And am I going to be working when I have kids one day during that time, right, when I could be with them? And so I started, just thinking about all the things of, just future-wise, okay?
Yeah.
I want to be home with my kids. I want to be a family man. I don't want to work, and come home and have dinner and my kids are already in bed. And so I was like, I got to figure out a way on how I can get my time freedom right. Yeah. And so I didn't really know. I tell this to a lot of people. Like, I didn't really know that I was going to start a social media marketing company, and that's I feel like that's the beautiful thing about just getting involved and just doing, right, taking that first step. But you don't have to necessarily always have a A to Z strategy in place when you get started. It's just the doing that eventually leads you on the right path of where you're supposed to be. And so really it was through the, like I said, I would get done with instruction, and then I would basically spend all my free time doing research and everything that I could in digital marketing and growing accounts. And then I would go study people who are already killing it as a digital marketer, right, on the Instagram platform. And I would try to pick up anything I could from those people who were already sitting in the seat that I wanted to sit in, right? And so then I would basically go back to my page and I would start trying all these different things until eventually one day, boom, it hit. And I think I mentioned this to you earlier before we started the show, but I was growing my page 10,000 new followers per month. Yeah. And it was at that moment in time that I started attracting a lot of attention from other people going, hey, man, can you help me out with this? And and naturally, man, after 3 months, I was just hustling my way like, hey, man, yeah, I'll do it for free as a testimony to see if it'll work for you too. Of course it did. And then I was like, hey, give me $20, $30, $40. And what I was doing was I was taking everyone that I was working with and I was putting them in a Telegram channel. And then every week I would dump their gains in there just to build excitement. And then after like 3 to 6 months, man, I noticed I had 100 people that I had worked with inside this group. And so it was at that moment where I went, boom, we should start a business.
Wow. That's incredible, man. That's everything you said. I try to do as well, like study the greats and just offer your service for free at first to build some traction. That's what I did with Jersey Champs. So that's incredible to see that you did the same thing.
100%, man. It's all about providing people with value. They say it's through the giving in which you receive, obviously. And that dates back to everything that we've ever known, whether you're, a Christian or not, or depending upon whatever belief or background you may be from, the underlying message in pretty much getting anything in this life on earth is, if you give enough value to people, you will reap the financial benefits from that. So, yeah, exactly. All right, sweet. So you said you were studying people that were doing well. So I'm wondering if you had any mentors or influences that inspired you. 100%. So I'm people that follow me know I'm a big Grant Cardone fan. Number one, the very first audiobook I ever read back in, I mean, it was literally 2017 when I was doing instruction. Somebody turned me on and they're like, hey, have you ever heard of Grant Cardone? And I said, no. And now everyone that I talk to that says they haven't heard of Grant Cardone, I'm like, wow, you are not affiliated in any way with entrepreneurship or personal development. And so, but anyway, I was turned on to The Millionaire Mindset by Grant Cardone, first book I ever read or listened to, the audio version. And dude, that book really changed my life, because it was from there I went into 10X. And, you know, when you get done with 10X and just the whole theory of, you know, massive action and it leading to success, you know, and everything we do in life, there is a formula that will lead to your end result. You know, success even has a formula that if you do everything inside this ABC formula, you will get X, Y, and Z. And so massive action playing a huge part of that. I quit thinking so much, because I feel like a lot of times we get in our heads and that prevents us from ever getting started a lot of the times. And so it was really just, like I said, you know, just the act of me putting massive action and going and actually doing the trial and error, you know, actually doing the research, putting the time in which I started seeing those results starting to take hold, right? And start actually building traction for what I was going to be doing for the next 3 to 5 years, if not longer. So Grant Cardone would definitely be a huge number one for me in terms of that. And, you know, you run into influencers as well, you know, the people, you know, that have 100K plus, because I remember back when I first started, you know, with 1,300 followers, literally in March of 2017. That's kind of how fast we've scaled, man. I had 1,300 followers in March of 2017. That's wild, I know. It still amazes me when I think about it. And I remember thinking 100,000 followers, and it is, you know, don't get me wrong, but I just remember thinking it was just this Mount Everest, right? It was the unachievable.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you know, I've 10x that, and I'm like you. I'm like, man, I want to hit 1 million by the end of 2019. That's kind of where my mind is, literally 10x.
Yeah. Same here, man. Same here.
But I stumbled across an article that literally said that influencer marketing, you know, back in 2017 was on the rise, and that if you had a 6-figure following, an audience base, right, that was active and engaged, obviously nothing fake, nothing bought, but everything is legitimate with real people. If you had the correct marketing strategy in place to monetize that audience, you could become a 6-figure earner. And I remember when I read that, the wheels started turning, and I'm like, wow, I could make, if I get to 100,000 real people, real followers who are active and engaged, and I put my, you know, I already had a business and marketing background again from my bachelor's. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, you know, if I can get to 100K and then use what I learned from college, if you will, into just hustling this thing, I could be a 6-figure earner. And I remember going back to a 10-year-old boy, 6 figures for me, especially coming from the South, that was like the kind of the threshold for people to kind of see you as being financially successful, was the 6 figures. Like if I could make $100,000 a year, I would be considered financially successful in my mind. That was the kind of the goal that I set for myself as a 10-year-old boy. And so now it was kind of like, for the first time, I was seeing social media, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship as a step for me to reach that 6-figure threshold. And so it was like, okay, I started investing a lot more of my time into that area.
Yeah, for sure. That was all great. Grant's a big mentor for me as well, and I'm literally going to 10X GrowthCon this week. So
it's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I wish I was there with you. Shout out to the fiance. We get married.
We got more important things.
But yeah, man, if I could be there 100%, I would. I'll
next year, man. Next year.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So we probably should have done this earlier, but let's talk about exactly what Social Revelation does.
Yeah, for sure. So in essence, you know, we help people increase their brand awareness and digital footprint online. And so if you kind of, the plain version of that is we help, you know, businesses, brands, public figures. It could be just a music artist, from a DJ to a brick and mortar here in downtown Atlanta. Doesn't really matter. We help those people build a bigger audience base through social media platforms, and we're moving into more digital marketing and like digital press and stuff as well. So if people want more, you know, want to build more credibility, they want to build more leverage for their company, they want to help, you know, transition to where selling their product is easier, we can help get them in publications through the network we have built within the industry. Since I myself have become a contributor, naturally you meet people. And so it's kind of like we're doing a win-win, you know, for them and for us, because publications are always looking, obviously, for credible people to kind of mention and generate new people and new press onto their platform. And then we're also, at the same time, you know, the client or the people who come to us are also kind of benefiting because they're able to leverage, you know, that feature or whatever in their business for more sales. So
yeah, for sure. So, what's a typical day like for you, and how many hours a week would you say you're putting in right now?
I gotcha. So a typical day, I try to, and I heard you on the No Excuse show kind of talk about this, but yeah, I definitely don't want to be a slave to my phone either. So when I wake up, I try to avoid that. Typically, I mean, I go and I have my coffee first. And
Uh-huh.
then as far as a morning routine, I always read 2 chapters of scripture a day. So I'm a Christian.
Nice.
For those who follow me know that. I
Mhm.
always read 2 chapters a day. I almost have the entire Bible read. And I've done
Wow.
that in less than a year from staying consistent to that goal. And then when I get done with that, my spiritual development for the day, I move into either a podcast or an audiobook, right? So I
Mhm.
either listen to a full podcast or I try to at least listen to 2 chapters of, maybe a Grant Cardone. I'm actually in Sell or Be Sold right now, about to
Mhm.
wrap that up. But, I work on the personal development side of things. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's got to have coffee. Can't do anything without that. I scripture read and then I work on personal development. If my day allows for it, I've been either going. I like to either go to the gym first thing in the morning if I have the time,
Mhm.
or I'll go sit in. We have these new things literally right down the road from where I'm staying. That they're infrared saunas actually, and it's pretty cool because if you've never been in an infrared sauna, it's not like traditional ones. It actually raises your core body temperature like 2 to 3 degrees. And so, if you sit for
Wow.
40 minutes, it's literally the equivalent to you running 2 or 3 miles. So
Wow.
it's awesome, man, because you can go sit. It's quiet, relaxing, and it's a good reflection period as well while you're
Yeah.
kind of burning calories. So
Huh.
once I kind of get done with that, then I'll kind of pick my phone up and kind of get started with my work day. And then
Yeah.
if we're
Yeah.
moving into a work day, it's just I have a set number of hours that I'll do calls for the day. This is prospecting, right? People who are booking calls with our company, or booking calls on the books with me to kind of answer any questions they have about what we do, or how we could benefit them. Then I actually do that from about 9 o'clock to noon, and then we move into kind of team building. So I'll basically go and address the employees that I have to see if they need me kind of hands on for the day. And then outside of that, man, it's just if I have any podcasts or shows that I need to kind of do interviews for. Typically, this one's a little bit kind of earlier than I would usually do it, but it's just we'll knock those out kind of towards the evening of the day. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of a typical day for me.
For sure. For sure. So you mentioned your team and your employees. So what's your team like, and how many employees do you have, and what job roles do they play?
Yeah, for sure. So I have up until funny thing, man. I actually for about a year and a half, I did 100% of everything in this business by myself.
Wow. Same
And
here, man. Same here.
just hustled and grinded, man. It's funny because people say your first business is like your first child, and that was 100% the case for me. You see something blossoming, and you
Mhm.
want to you try to be as hands on as possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes, man, I'm starting to learn now from listening to other mentors, like the Andy Frisellas of the world, about how sometimes you just have to let go, right?
Mhm.
And so you in order to scale, you have to have a team, right? It's that
Yeah.
saying that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with others. And so
Mm.
um, about 4 months ago, I hired basically a full-time personal assistant. So she handles pretty much all my administrative work, any emails I need to have sent out. She handles customer service, and then she handles like our client onboarding. So that whole process from when a client signs up with us, she takes care of all of that. So she's been
Mhm.
instrumental. Now looking back, man, I'm like, how in the heck did I go a year and a half without having someone like her around? Because she's amazing. And I also have another kind of part-time guy. So I have one full-time personal assistant who handles the majority of kind of the daily operations, if you will. And then I have a part-time guy who kind of comes in when he's done with his full-time job and kind of helps anything that she may need help with. And so again, I deal with people in my circle that I hire. Obviously I like for them to kind of have the same morals and values that I do. They have to be trustworthy, obviously. And so, both people working for me right now, I've known for many years, 10 plus years. And so, I know that literally they would take a bullet for this company. And so,
Yeah.
that's the kind of culture that we want to build.
Mhm.
And then anything outside of, because it really doesn't require a whole lot from the onboarding and then the customer service side of things. For the most part, most of our clients, when they come on to us, are very happy. We actually have an 87% retention rate,
Wow.
So, I mean, almost
That's
nine
really
out of
high.
10 people, yeah, are staying on once they come onto the system. And
Wow.
so again, we believe in making people feel like they're valued here. We don't get caught up in we want you to just be a number, right? We go over quality for sure over the quantity aspect. Some people, they just, they'll charge $10 a month and they want to have millions of people. We never went that route. We would rather charge a little bit more of a premium price and really have a one-on-one relationship. Most of my clients, the biggest compliment I think that I've ever gotten is just the fact of how, if they ever reach out to me, they truly, truly know that they're going to get a response. And I'm very, efficient in how I respond to them as well. So, because for the most part, man, if you were a client of mine and you text me, as soon as this podcast is over and I've seen it, odds are within the next 10 minutes, you're going to hear from me. And so I feel like a lot of CEOs don't do that. They don't have those relationships with their clients. And so, I've just maintained that from the very beginning. And naturally, as you scale, it gets tougher, but I still try to always communicate with at least some of my clients every single day. And so,
that's awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. Culture is super important with any company and scaling especially, because who would want to work for you if you don't have a good culture within the company?
Exactly. Makes total sense. And then, and we hire freelancers and stuff, obviously off Upwork for little projects here and there that we may need. But for the most part, man, everyone that we work with, man, they're great people. They're trustworthy. They would do anything for you. And that's what we want here in our company, is people that would literally go above and beyond to help you in any way they can. If they don't have an answer, they're willing to go research and get you an answer. So
awesome. All right. So what would you say your biggest hurdle was with Social Revelation? Because with Jersey Champs, we've almost gone out of business twice now. So I'm curious to see what your biggest hurdle was.
Yeah. So for me, it was probably the moment of hiring, team members, but I mean, as I was talking with other people who are in the same space, and some mentors of mine, they're like, the hardest thing you'll ever do is not, drive enough sales or be able to fulfill demand. Truthfully, it's getting team members or the right team members in place who truly care about your business as much as you do. And so I think, honestly, that's why if I had to really, really get down to the core of it, I think that's probably why I went a year and a half without hiring anybody, is because I was like, man, nobody's really going to care about this as much as I am. And that's not the way to be. I know now, like in hindsight, like listening to Andy Frisella, he's like, you can sit here and what if all you want to, as one of his quotes, but you'll what if yourself right out of business. You know what I mean? You can't always question and not hire people because you have the concerns, like Andy says, until they prove you wrong, you need to learn to trust people. And that can be tough for a lot of people because, especially if you've been burned in the past with business relationships, right? It's hard to just, especially when it comes to freelancers, just to pick someone out of the crowd on Upwork when you post a job and just all of a sudden trust that person and be willing to give them access to your stuff for them to get a job done. So probably that, I would say, because I mean, truthfully, we scaled a lot more when I was able to free myself up and buy into the automate, eliminate, and delegate process, right? And understand that if I'm doing 10 things in a day, there's probably only those top 2 are the ones that I'm really, really good at. And so I could literally automate, eliminate, or delegate the other 7 things that I'm doing throughout my day, and give those to other people who, those things may be their top 1 or 2 on their list. And it was by doing that allowed me to free my time up to be able to have the time to do podcast interviews like I'm doing right now with you. If you come to me last year, no shot, I would have had a time to do something like this.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was the same exact way and I was just not keen on hiring people. But in the long run, it's one of my biggest regrets because I could have scaled so much quicker.
100%. 100%. And I think that's what I'm learning for sure. It's definitely getting easier now to go out and hire new people because I see just how much it's helped me over the last 6 months. But like I said, man, you get a ton of experience. Obviously like being hands-on with something, and this is my first company. You know what I mean? This is my first child, and so again, I'm lucky enough that it was that we were able to scale it to what we have in such a little amount of time. Because like I said, I started this kind of as a side hustle March of 2017. 2018 was actually my first full fiscal year with Social Revelation. So we're just now working on our second full fiscal year. That's it, and we've been able to do over 7 figures. So.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, so your first full year, now 2019 is coming up. So what's the next move for you this year? What are you trying to accomplish?
Right now, I'm going after just building a bigger audience base. I think my PR team that I have working for me. I think the next move they want to transition me into being on stage through
Mhm.
public speaking, which everyone that talks to me who kind of listens to these shows, they're like, man, have you ever considered motivational speaking, especially coming from a small town, because you just don't hear stories about a small town kid all the time that's
Yeah.
blew up on a national scale who's literally on Good Morning LA out in West Hollywood. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
just, and next month I'll be out in Park City, Utah on the Mountain Morning Show live as well. And so,
Wow.
you know, I, although we kind of get in our heads a lot, we always question, is my story worth telling kind of thing. I'm starting to realize now from just hearing, and I have a great support system, but friends and family and just business partners are like, man, you should think about really, really getting into public speaking because, you have an amazing story and a testimony, and I think you can motivate and inspire a lot of young entrepreneurs. And so with that, there is another revenue stream that could take place there for me, and it could be a career move as well. I'm not saying obviously I would, move 100% away from social revelation, but I do think that I could probably fit in some public speaking into my workday as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, personal brand is super important, and the connections you make at those conferences last the rest of your life. So
Exactly.
definitely agree with that move. I'm trying to get more into that as well, and yeah, it's been paying off super, super well for me. Honestly, every conference I've been to, I've met someone that's helped me get to the next level.
That's awesome, man. And personal branding, man, it's just so crazy. It's so powerful. There's so much opportunity surrounding it. Like for instance, most people are more familiar, with Richard Branson more so than like, Virgin Atlantic, right? The
Yeah.
airline. So, and again, it's this whole concept of, let's just say he sells that, right? He sells that next week, but he goes and endorses this over here and wants to start this company. He's going to be a lot more successful in that because people follow him as a personal brand. And so anything he gets
Exactly.
behind, they're going to get behind.
Exactly. You can utilize your personal brand in any industry you enter.
100%. That's exactly right.
Super powerful. All right, man. So where can people find you, learn more about you, message you, and all that?
Yeah, so my personal website is just officialryanwhite.com. You can connect with me on Instagram. My handle is @RyanWhite. And if you shoot me a DM there, I go through those pretty much every day. So expect a reply if you shoot me a message on Instagram.
Awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much for being on my first episode.
I appreciate you, Sean, for having me, man. And I look forward to collaborating with you again in the future.
For sure, man. Good luck with everything.
I appreciate you.
All right.
See ya.
See you.